Hello, viewers, and hello, Bruce. Our CrossClimate2 tire review, that's easily our most viewed episode ever. Links down below if you want to see it. But, I was thinking about that, and I know that when we reviewed that, you had bought those for your wife's van, and you probably have about 30,000-ish miles, I'm guessing, on the van, or on those tires on your van now. But you bought another pair of CrossClimate2s for your Taurus. So I thought maybe what we could do is, talk about your experiences on the Taurus.
Keith, you're absolutely right. The CrossClimate2 was and still is our number one viewed video. And for me, those tires were ones that, we really have enjoyed the experience so far. And it was a good enough experience, even at the time, for us to go out and get another set and put them on our Taurus. But one thing that you didn't tell our audience about is we've got a twist this time. So we're not just going to talk about the CrossClimate2s. We're going to have the CrossClimate2s go head to head with another set of Michelin tires, the Michelin Primacy MXM4s. Now, the MXM4s are an all-season tire. The CrossClimate2, as pointed out by one of our viewers, is an all-weather tire. And there is a difference. Now, is that going to make a difference in terms of, what my view of these tires are? That's what we're going to dig into. How do these tires compare? How are the CrossClimate2s doing on the Taurus? Because now we've waited long enough that the CrossClimate2s on the Taurus actually have some decent history behind them too. So we'll consider this a long-term review and a head-to-head against another set of tires.
Yeah, cool. Let's do a head-to-head. So the Michelin Primacy MXM4s, I believe you called it. One of the things that I'm interested about that, so I already know you love the CrossClimate2, right? That we established, I believe, pretty conclusively from the review on your van. But for the Taurus, I know that was the OEM specified tire for the Taurus, at least for your model year. And that is interesting because one thing I do know is that OEM specified tires are not to be trifled with, I suppose is a word, because there is an awful lot of engineering effort that goes into the development of a new tire for an OEM program, especially for a high volume program like the Taurus, or at least Ford intended the Taurus to be extremely high volume. So the requirements put on Michelin to develop that tire were probably very strict, and they put a lot of engineering effort into it. So I am curious if the CrossClimate2 is going to be better than an OEM specified tire.
Yeah, that's a great point, Keith. I mean, this is where having someone with your engineering background really helps in the analysis, right? So I was fully aware that they were OEM tires, but not necessarily aware of just how much sometimes, the work that goes into mating a tire to an automobile, how much engineering on the back end that really is. I mean, I think a lot of people probably just think of that process as, well, they put it out to bid and a whole bunch of tire manufacturers said, well, I can sell you this many based on, this estimated volume, that kind of stuff. But sounds like it's significantly different. Right? So let's kind of jump right into my initial thoughts. And I will tell you, if everything else were equal, right? All the other performance and tire wear and everything else, the Primacy does look better on the rim, on the car, than the CrossClimate. And maybe it's just, the CrossClimate has a particular tread pattern that does not say sporty, right? It says, I'm going to tear through whatever you put me through, and that's my goal in life. I'm not here to look pretty. Like it or not, right? It's kind of like, function over form with that respect. So the Primacy definitely has a better look on the rim. It just sits, the way you'd expect it to. It has kind of a sporty look. Now, that being said, a sporty look and sporting in my Taurus, first off, I don't really, I mean, it's probably well established from our other car videos that I have a Mustang. And so when it comes to sporty, Taurus does not come to mind first and foremost for me, right? The Mustang GT is definitely the more sporty vehicle. So that's where my mindset is there. My Taurus is about getting me from point A to point B, kind of regardless of what the weather's doing. That's what's important. And when I drive, I want a lot of confidence in, whether it's wet weather, whether it's dry, whether it's snowy weather. I wanna know that I have a tire that's going to perform in terms of safely getting me from point A to point B.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that your preference, right? Your preference is your preference, what you think looks sporty or good. I'm going to challenge you on that though a little bit because I do think that the public perception, not maybe you personally, but people will like the look of something that will function better, right? I think it's something deep in our psychology. Like, look at the Lakers logo. That's like the stupidest logo I've ever seen. Stupid colors, whatever. But people like that logo because the Lakers historically have won, right? It's a functioning thing. And I think that, if the CrossClimate2 tears the world apart with its incredible performance, then that's going to kind of set a standard that people will expect their tires to look that way and they'll start to like it. I don't know. But I will say that in the tire industry, that's going to happen even more because what's happening on the scene, I'm going to put this up to the camera. I actually do subscribe to this magazine, believe it or not. Airless tires, you don't see them on the road so much right now, but they're coming, right? 10 years from now, maybe not even that long, you'll start to see them all over the place. And here's an image of this non-pneumatic. It's just no air inside. This one's from Hankook, if I'm saying that right. I think I'm pronouncing that right, Hankook. But all of the manufacturers are after that. That's the goofiest looking tire you've ever seen. That's going to become standard good looking tires pretty soon anyway.
Keith, there's probably something to that because, kind of going back to the way that the tire sat on it, the Primacies on the Taurus, I definitely, especially putting the CrossClimates on there at first, way preferred the way the Primacy looked. That being said, I would not rule out that the CrossClimates have grown on me in terms of the way they look, but it's probably more how I feel about that tire that has really influenced that. Because the tire, not to completely let the cat out of the bag here, but it's probably not going to come as a huge surprise to you. I really like the CrossClimates on the Taurus as well. So it's not just a van thing, it's on the Taurus thing. And it's all about how they perform. I've been on wet pavement. I've been on dry pavement. I've been in snow. I've been in sleet. I've been in pretty much all the weather conditions. Now, I haven't really tried them on a lot of ice, and for a good reason. I'm a big believer in if it's that icy out, you probably just, unless you're an ice racer, you just stay out of there, right? Stay off the roads when it's icy. No tire is going to be safe on ice. Don't kid yourself. And so that function that I get out of them probably has as you stated, made that look grow on me. And it's kind of one of those, I walk up and I see the tread from the behind, and we've got some video of what that looks like from your Jeep, right? Because shortly after I got those tires, we actually started this review. This is a long-term review, even though the review is brand new to the channel. We've been working on this for over a year. Right. And so, no one can doubt that we put some serious time and effort into some of these reviews. So it's not just a flash pan. We threw the tires on the car for 2 weeks, drove them around and, gave our initial thoughts and called it good. These are tires that I'm living with on both the van and on the Taurus long term. It's funny, Keith, because, you said I've had these tires, long enough that I've taken them around the block. Well, I actually literally did take them around the block, I actually drove the Taurus with both the Primacy tires and the CrossClimate2s on the exact same route in kind of my neighborhood area. Now, it was a combination of, some residential highway speeds, both, normal 55 mile an hour and then 45 mile an hour highway, along with, more of a slower speed limit, road that leads back to my house and then through the residential area. Really, multiple passes, and I used a cell phone to get the decibel reading. And Keith and I were talking about my methodology off camera, right? As we were discussing how we were going to do this episode, and it's not a perfect way of analyzing things, right? Because I'm measuring the quantity of sound as opposed to exactly what type of sound was being produced. And I'll let Keith maybe touch on that more in depth. But the whole idea here was to drive the car in the same path, trying to approximate the same acceleration speeds and that given I can't control all the traffic that happen to be on the road, with the idea that I wanted to dispel maybe some of the myths sometimes that people will say, well, this tire is way louder than that tire. From my driving around, I will tell you this. The two tires, from a pure decibel perspective, were relatively the same, right? And maybe I was driving a little faster or slower one time or another, but generally speaking, they peaked out about the same decibel rating, and they hit the same minimums. And then, we're kind of all over the place in terms of, where they fell based on all of those road conditions and how fast I was going, all of those things. So from that perspective, I can honestly say there wasn't a disadvantage to the CrossClimate2s, and its tread pattern, and they both are relatively the same type of performance from a sound loudness perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Off air, I was asking you too, like, which did you like better in terms of the sound? And that's a very personal, there's no right or wrong whether you like or not like a particular sound, but that actually is something that manufacturers work on sometimes. It has to do with the quality of the sound, and it gets into psychology and jury testing and demographics. It's not really related directly to the magnitude of the sound levels coming off of a sound level meter, right? Like Bruce, like what you had on your iPhone. I mean, it's not unrelated to that, but it's not always just about how loud it is, right? We're looking at the entire spectrum of the sound signature and looking at the shape of that sound. And there's all of these sound quality metrics that look at things like tonality and sharpness and interference patterns that may develop. So it's a whole thing. And actually, what tire manufacturers really care about is not what you personally, Bruce, care about, but legislatively, especially in Europe, if I'm being honest, more so than in the United States at least, that there's a thing called pass-by noise. And there is it's a standard, it's an ISO standard that limits a tire manufacturer's ability to sell tires at all in a particular market if they exceed a pass-by noise level. And those are exterior sound measurements typically, right? I think there's interior measurements that are also happening, but anyway, without going all the way down the rabbit hole, it is interesting that not only could you not really tell the difference between tire A versus tire B from a qualitative perspective as a consumer, but also the sound level meter also didn't really, show quantitatively that there was a sound level difference either. So that's the sound. Now let's talk about tread life. That's another very important performance metric when it comes down to whether you are happy or not with a particular tire. What do you think about that, Bruce?
Absolutely, Keith. I mean, if nothing else, just to kind of close out the whole sound thing, nothing jumped out at me to say that either tire, was extra bad or extra pleasing or anything like that. So, what's probably most or more important to me, after really traction, right, is I don't want to have to buy tires, prematurely. And one thing that I will say that was, I think, a bit disappointing was I really only got about 30,000 miles or so on my Primacies. And I won't say that I drive as nicely as my wife does on her van tires. So, maybe my cross climates on the Taurus aren't going to last the same as the van. And that's fine. But kind of going back to the whole like sporty looking, sporty performance, um, performance tires tend to not last as long. So I'm wondering, along with their all season characteristics, if the Primacies do have more of that sport characteristic, which is nice if you want a sporty tire. But the flip side of that coin is sometimes, you sacrifice some tread life. The CrossClimate2, I know that there's some people that, have commented on, reduced tread life compared to other, what I would say, just standard passenger tires that were rated for all season, right? Now, these are all weather versus all season. So that's an important characteristic to differentiate between. The CrossClimate2s, we'll throw some numbers up where we're at, but my tread life, I'll put the exact mileage that we have from purchase to when I took this reading. But the tread life, I'm down to 8/32 of an inch on the front and 9/32 of an inch on the rear. And my car is due for an oil change and a tire rotation. So, without getting too in depth into, front tire, back tire, I have a front wheel drive car. That is the drive wheels. It's also the turning wheels. And so you're going to experience some additional wear on the front tires on a front wheel drive car. And that's why it's important to rotate those tires. Now, how did I come at that measurement? We actually will have a short available on this particular device. This measures tread, and it is very scientific looking, right? I think this is a good thing to have around the house. And again, we'll have a short on this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I will actually, we'll link that once it's available, because the short may not go up before this review does. But I did measure that. So that is where we're at from a tread wear perspective. Whether you consider that good or bad, you can decide. Again, tread wear and whether it's good or bad and how frequently you have to replace your tires is going to be a little bit, subjective. It's going to be, you kind of deciding where you need to be. These are rated for 60,000 miles. Doesn't mean you're going to get 60,000 miles on it. The Primacy are rated for 55,000, and I didn't get anywhere close to that. So again, your driving experience is going to impact that. I don't know if I'm happy yet with from a tread wear perspective. I won't let the cat out of the bag on the van, but the van is going to have an update as well. So you're going to be able to see the long-term. And when I say long-term, we're talking 30,000 mile update. And you'll be able to decide if where that car is from its tread wear and the miles that it has on it, if that's good or bad.
Yeah, this is interesting to me because the CrossClimate2 it's not really a snow tire per se, but it is an all-season tire, right? Or not all-season, all-weather tire that has the 3 mountain peak snowflake symbol on it. So it's designed to perform in the winter, which normally involves a softer compound, right? So that the rubber stays softer in cold weather. Normally, you would expect that to have a lower life, right? Lower mileage, but that's not the case. The all-season tire, just looking at the all-season versus all-weather, the all-season tire should have a longer tread life, but the warranty is not. The warranty for the Primacies is 55,000 miles, and the warranty for the CrossClimate2s is 60, right? 60,000 miles. So that's already interesting, and also interesting that you were very disappointed in the tread life that you actually got out of your Primacies, that it was disappointing. So sounds like the deck sounds like the deck is already stacked in the CrossClimate2's favor. I know you are not really sure of whether 8/32 or 9/32 of tread depth is good or bad at this point, but seems like CrossClimate2 is probably going to win this battle eventually.
Yeah, so Keith, I have a theory here. And again, maybe we can draw on your engineering expertise, but I think the difference between the Primacy and the CrossClimate2 and, all season versus all climate or all weather, right, is going to be that the CrossClimate2 is really trying to marry a snow tire to, a passenger tire, right, to achieve the all season. Versus the Primacy is trying to marry that all-season characteristic with a performance tire, right? And if there's one thing that gets even less tread wear life than a snow tire, it's a performance tire, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of performance tires. If you get 20,000 miles out of those things, people are like shaking your hand, patting you on the back and saying, hey, you aren't having enough fun with your car, right? So I think that might be, my theory on why that happens to be. So again, I do like the way that the CrossClimate, gets me through the weather. I mean, kind of take everything else, tread wear, all of those things out of the equation at this time. I've driven both sets of tires in all weather conditions, dry, wet. And the CrossClimate2 just is a more confident tire. Now, total disclosure here, I did get the Primacies with about 830 seconds of tread on it because it was a used car with 19,000 miles on it. And so, some of the initial, tread life is not something I got to experience, where maybe its traction was significantly better. But 830 seconds was enough that my car sold as a certified used, that those tires were within the specs to be still sold as certified used. And I am now driving, especially on the front, with the same level of tread that I purchased the car with. So from that standpoint, those things are now equal. So we'll see, right? I mean, maybe we'll do another update, but this is already kind of a long-term update. And maybe if people are interested, we'll still touch back on this topic again. Not to spoil things, but we're also going to very shortly have the update on the van. This is, I think, going to maybe be the last update, or maybe we'll do one update when I have to replace those tires, and we'll kind of give everyone the metric of how many miles did we get out of them and where we're at. Let me just say one quick thing, though, on the tread life warranty, and it goes to answer the question about whether people, file a claim on the tread life. What Michelin's policy is for that tread life warranty is 230 seconds, okay? I replaced the Primacies between 4 and 5 seconds. And I really needed to because of where I felt my traction had degraded to. I can't even imagine driving on 230 seconds. To me, that feels like I would be on like slicks. Okay, so, and I'm not driving around in Nebraska weather, any of the conditions, right, other than dry weather on slicks.
Yeah, Bruce, I like your theory about the all-season tire trying to incorporate some of the benefits of a performance tire, and that maybe that was part of the reason for the relatively poor tread life that you experienced on the Primacy, buying that. And isn't it weird, though, that the warranty says 2/32 instead of a 16th? Like, I'm not great at doing math in my head, but I think that's a 16th of an inch. And if you just visualize a 16th of an inch, yeah, that sucks. So I don't know. I don't know what the tread life warranty is for. I mean, a 16th, that's basically nothing. That doesn't make sense. But at any rate, I think we're good. Let's close out the episode. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. And we'll see you next time, or you will see us next time on Dad's Talk Tech.